What's up, everybody? Thralls Melodic here once again. I'm Necrotic Nick.
I'm Jammin John.
And we have yet another album review for you, and one that we got a little bit early because it was streaming early, and it definitely has some relevance, at least for this oncoming awesome fest that we're going to. So we're going to go over the latest offering from Shed the Skin, the Carnage Cast Shadows. This, well, technically comes out on the 16th of May, but I believe it doesn't officially come out in terms of like physical media until the last week of May. And that's on Hell's Headbangers, by the way. Anyway, this band formed in 2011 in Cleveland, Ohio. This is their fifth album. I have been a fan since their debut album, Harrowing Faith. I really enjoyed their last one, Thermogenesis. It was close to making my year-end list in, 2022, 2021. It's one of those. I can't remember. But yeah, this band is also going to be at MDF, and we're excited to see them. And technically, I would say this kind of falls in the qualifications of a supergroup, because we have current and former members of bands like Incantation, Ringworm, Faith Extractor, and Crucified Mortals in here.
I've never heard this band until today. Today is my first rendezvous with these guys, and I think that's also kind of cool because, again, we get to see them at MDF. So at least they won't get on stage and I'll be like, who the hell is this? Because I will have listened to this record, and I would imagine they would play something from the record. So, you know, I'd say the odds are fairly high, but yeah, this is my first jammy jam with this album.
I also told him that Kyle Severn from Incantation was the drummer in here. That was enough to rope him in, too.
Well, that, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah.
But having listened to this band for years, they're just kind of like fiercely old school death metal, but they have like some, like interesting flair to them. And comparing this to the last one, this feels like a very different album. The last one was like straight ahead, old school death metal, good amount of melody, lots of cool D beats, riffs for days. This still definitely does that, but, well, right away with the first two tracks, the title track and Crook of the Sacred Skies, there's a lot of hardcore. There's a lot of hardcore and punk on here. And, granted, D beats and, like big downpick riffs, that's always kind of a big part of like fiercely old school death metal, but here, it really, really feels more hardcore oriented.
And a little bit, I don't want to say grindy, but I got a lot of Napalm Death vibes, which I suppose still falls in the kind of punky category. But to say riffs upon riffs is kind of an understatement. This band is nothing but riffs. And this thing is just loaded with awesome harmonies. I mean, you could throw your hat in the air and land in any direction and you're going to get awesome harmonies.
That's definitely some carryover from, I would say, like all their albums. This band always has the thing with like really catchy, frequently descending harmonies. There's not a tremendous amount of like solos on here, like, a couple of them. But for the most part, there are just harmonized riff after harmonized riff, whether it's tremolo riffs or even like the, more hardcore laden ones. And when this band kind of slows it down a little bit, there's a lot of like doomy accents. Songs like Ice Hearted Herald, Ancient Flames, Swarm, and Talons. And one of our personal favorites, The Mind's Vermin, which has these just intricate, crawling, descending, gnarly riffs. Like, there's a little bend and a little hitch in all of them, and they are so fucking catchy.
And catchy describes about 90% of this record, because most of these riffs are fairly heavily melody-laden. And while I wouldn't call this melodic in any real sense of the word, it does have a lot of melody.
I would say it's melodic, but it's not melodic death metal. Like, those two don't necessarily meet. This definitely has more of a like fiercely old school kind of death metal vibe. But even when they get down to these slower sections where there is kind of a like doom laden vibe to it, it doesn't feel like death doom. Like, I wouldn't call it death doom even in those moments. Like, despite having someone from Incantation in there, the death doom moments on here, honestly, they feel more traditional. Like, a little bit more along the lines of like classic doom, like, Candlemass, St. Vitus, and stuff like that. In fact, there are certain tracks in here, namely Stolen from the Storm God, that I feel like if they had a different vocal approach, like a singer in there, it would honestly work. Like something, kind of akin to like Crypt Sermon. The riffs have, again, like a lot of melody. They kind of have like a little bit of an epic vibe too. Like, this doesn't come across as like super sinister. And I think that's kind of cool because like, I don't know, like the energy on this album is kind of all over the place. And like, sinister riffs, that's like a big thing in death metal. I kind of like the fact that there's like this like epic kind of classic heavy metal vibe all across this. But it still maintains this raw, punky, visceral energy. Like, this album either wants to summon Satan in grand fashion or fucking fight you.
I mean, there are some definite evil sounding moments, but they're pocketed. Like, you don't get a full bore evil sounding song. Like, I wouldn't say this is like cavernous, filthy death metal by any means. Songs like we brought up earlier, Ice-Hearted Herald, The Mind's Vermin, Ancient Flames, when it does get slower, it is noticeably more evil, and what they like to do when they have these slower riffs is make them bend and lurch.
But again, like always melodic, like, you know, the main like lead melody that, you know, is over this awesome groovy pocket that opens up Ice-Hearted Herald is very like Carcass-esque.
Mm-hmm.
Same thing with Henge Tomb. Henge Tomb opens up on a stormy night. It's one of the few moments in here where they kind of like, you know, let it open up for a pocket of atmosphere. But you get these clean melodies that are definitely very, you know, sullen, very somber. And then on top of that, honestly, these lead harmonies sound so much like something that Bill Steer would play.
Yeah.
And at least with the setup on that, I was expecting like something like slow and doomy. Like it kind of just had that vibe. But no, it explodes into like fucking thrash metal riffs and then settles into this bendy, lurchy riff and this groove. The transitions in that song are nuts. I felt like I was listening to like 3 different songs that they had sampled from. I was like, you know what, let's put them together and make some wild, crazy song to kind of confuse the people in the pit. Like, oh, it's groovy. No, it's not. And then it is. But, you know, I mean, it's kind of part of the fun of it.
Overall, I think fun is a great descriptor of this record. Like, there wasn't a single moment where I didn't feel like the band wasn't having fun. Like, the way things are presented, again, going from these big, evil, doomy-sounding, lurching riffs to just spin the room, throw a chair, throw a beer bottle, woo, let's rage. That could be openly stated in the song Ravenous Rage, which is just blasts and gallops and a good time. It sounds like a ton of fun. It sounds kind of like what I believe it's going to be live.
And they're pretty good when it comes down to like switching up from like that punky D beat gear to like some, you know, blast beats and like heavy tremolo harmonies. Like when this album wants to like show off its fierce death metal side, it's excellent at it, just as it's really good at showing off its hardcore side. Which the hardcore thing, I didn't get as much of that on previous albums. Like this one, there is like just like this notable punky energy. Fomorian Hordes and again Ravenous Rage, like there's just like this kind of punk angst to it. You know, I kind of dig that. I mean, like I wouldn't call this metallic hardcore, but it has enough moments on it to make me kind of question. And honestly, there's points in here where again, if you switched vocals and got like, I don't know, Human Furnace from Ringworm to front it, I mean, it would take me just a few seconds to go, wait a minute, maybe that isn't Ringworm, because, you know, all of a sudden the blast beat and tremolo section would come in. I was like, that's not always them, but it is occasionally them. I don't know. Let me check the CD. But it's those meeting points where, you know, they try to switch up things and transition like into like, you know, the different style. It's where they meet. I think there's a lot of fun. Like Fomorian Hordes. Fomorian Hordes is predominantly like a more hardcore D-beat ripper. You know, it's fun, it's energetic, it's, you know, got like, again, a ton of hardcore energy, but it also has the flat out most metallic lead on the entire album. Like, there's only a couple of like flat out solos on here, but that solo goes on for longer than any other solo on here. It's just nonstop shreddy, squealy shredding, and there's a contrast there with the rest of the song. I mean, there's occasional moments in there where they kind of break it up and do like some machine gun shrugs over a double time D beat. But for the most part, like it's kind of just that point where the two meet, and honestly, it's just a lot of fun.
Now, there's not an overwhelming amount of breakdowns on this record, but you got a couple songs that kind of cross over into both hardcore and death metal. Songs like Henge Tomb, that breakdown is particularly nasty. And then the song Scion of Nyx, and to be honest, I mean, maybe.
It's not.
It's not, yep.
Actually, I never owned one.
To be honest, that breakdown reminded me a lot of something Hyperdontia would do. Because the drums are slowed down and the riffs are still moving at a decent pace. It's a Hyperdontia trick to me. But I mean, like, there's not a lot of it, but there are just moments where this record just goes for the throat, just for an extra moment.
Yeah, a lot of this, I would just say, is just old school, awesome death metal goodness with like a hefty dose of like hardcore mixed in. And again, like a lot of melody, a surprising amount of melody, but it doesn't traipse into like melodic death metal territory. In terms of any negatives on here, I will say that I do like the last one a little bit more. It just felt a little bit more straight ahead. This one, like the energy is kind of like bouncing off the walls. I like that, but I feel like the last one was a little bit more straight ahead, because this one, I feel like, you know, they really just kind of like blended all the bands that they're kind of in. Like this is very homogenized in terms of like, all right, got an incantation part here. There's a lot of ringworm energy on here. And, Faith Extractor, I mean, that's just straight up gnarly death metal. It's all kind of blended on here, and I do think it's done really well, but I feel like sometimes it's just in a little bit of a hurry. There's not a lot of like spots on here where they kind of like let things breathe. Like legit, Henchtomb, again, is the only spot where there's like a little bit of an atmosphere kind of like lead in. Almost from the rip, they just get going, whether it's an isolated chuggy riff or they just come in like blazing, everyone's going.
And that was something I thought too, because while there are slower moments in here and they're definitely pretty gross, they don't stay that way. Like, most of these songs kind of have the same setup to them. You're either full-blown barn burner or you got something that's slow and evil sounding that ends up going really fast. Like, there's nothing in here that stays slow and stays evil and, like, kind of stays on track. Like, it all just goes wherever it wants to go. And that's cool, but I wish there had been a moment where it stayed slower and stayed evil, because, like, this still is definitely death metal. But there's nothing really in here that I would call straightforward death metal.
I mean, to a degree, like some of it I would call straightforward. It's just in a hurry to go fast. Like, the groovier pockets that come in, like leading it in, like, all right, this is going to be like that more mid-tempo affair.
Yeah.
But there's always something like fast and kind of thrashy or kind of hardcore-ish that comes in to kind of like break that up. And while that's fun, it makes the songs kind of stand out for having all these elements blended in. I could use like a song that kind of just embodies like that slower side, especially in the more like, groove-laden moments, like where it's a little bit slower and a little bit more menacing. Those harmonized riffs are so damn good.
I kind of retract my statement. I guess I won't say that there's nothing that's straightforward death metal. The last track, Stolen from the Storm Gods, is pretty goddamn death metal through and through. So I can't say it's all like that, but I mean, I personally would have taken a song that was actually just straight evil and slow and nasty, because there's definitely a setup for that going on.
But outside of that, I dug this. I thought the production was pretty solid.
Yeah.
It's, very raw sounding, but that really works with what this band's sound is. And I have to shout out the album art. It was done by Justin Myers of Axioma, who does amazing art.
Yes, he does.
This album cover is absolutely sick as hell. But yeah, this was just a lot of fun to listen to, and overall I'm going to give it 3.5 stars. This is just, good, riffy fun. Again, I really wasn't expecting a lot of the hardcore elements, which is weird because I know that this band has members of Ringworm in it, but that really didn't show up as much, or at least as like vibrantly as it did on this one. Because those first 2 tracks, there's like, definitely death metal in it, but a lot of it just has this like gnarly kind of crusty hardcore vibe to it. And I like that. It's a different kind of anger. It's a different kind of rage than death metal. And it works well throughout this entire album. Again, like a more mid-tempo, like straight ahead song, or like a slow brooding song to kind of break up the pace of the album, I think would have been cool. And a couple of like, atmospheric transitional points, that would have been cool too. But overall, this is an enjoyable album. It's fun, and it's deceptively melodic. Like the melodic harmonies on here, I think, are excellent. And, it took me a while to realize that there weren't that many solos on here.
Right.
But I was like, you know what? It's cool because you frequently get these catchy, like very heavy metal harmonies across the board. And of course, the main thing I love, riffs. There's a fuck ton of riffs on here. But yeah, if you're a big fan of, man, dude, Autopsy for damn sure. There's a little bit of Carcass on here. A little bit of Incan every now and then.
Yeah.
And, just like kind of like old school death metal in general. Check this out. And if you're going to MDF, check them out live.
I'm going to have to agree and also give this 3.5 stars. First and foremost, riffs upon riffs. This album is loaded with tons of awesome riffs. I didn't feel that anything really like ran into each other riff-wise. Like, they're all pretty creative. I liked every song. There was nothing on here that I didn't enjoy. Again, we'll say that I could have used something slower, but I'm not going to lay on that point too much because I don't want to take away from the fact that the record was pretty awesome. Dude, the mix is pretty on point. I like how natural everything sounds. The guitars sound mean and gnarly. There's tons of awesome tremolos. You get some pretty natural, punchy drums going on. A lot of headbangable moments and the awesome harmonies. All those awesome descending harmonies just got me. And the tremolos, too, make this record sound a little bit darker. There are some kind of like blackened moments going on. It is pretty much all over the map. step. It is a great mixture of death metal and hardcore and punk and thrash, kind of all just nestled together into this big grimy pit of metal, which is what you want for most albums. Pretty much if you're a fan of, well, any of the bands that these guys are in, plus something like Hyperdontia, maybe a little bit of Napalm Death, all those wonderful things just kind of sandwiched together. Some Bolt Thrower, there are some Bolt Thrower stomps going on. If you're a fan of all that, give this a whirl for yourself, and like we said, if you are going to MDF, definitely check these guys out.
So, if you enjoyed this review, give it a thumbs up, and if you are new to the channel, subscribe, because we do stuff like this all the time. We also have memberships. They are only 99 cents, and our lone perk is doing a members-only live stream once a month, and it looks like, the one you'll be catching is probably after MDF, when we're, like, sunburned and exhausted, and... yeah, all that. But hey, we'll have stories. I'm absolutely sure of that. But memberships are the main way to support the channel. We also still have our store, thrallsmetal.com, with our shirts and hats. That is located down below in the video description, as well as in that area, there's a join button. And you can hit it and become one of the cool kids. I'm lying, we're not cool. I don't even really know how to pitch that. I'm sorry. You can be a loser like us and just hit the join button.
Somebody called me cool the other day, and I was like...
the fuck?
Really? But I appreciate you. Thank you. Just like we appreciate you guys. Even if you don't hit the join button, there's still tons of content for you. We have, of course, our member streams. We have non-member streams that we did last night. One of us got a little drunk. Whoops. Don't mix beer and wine. Don't do it. I'm sure you out there already know not to do that, but I haven't drank in a really long time, and I'm a moron. And I did it last night, and I'm still feeling kind of rough. So if you want to watch a really stupid live stream, it's the last one we did. Anyway, tons of content coming your way. Album reviews, discography rankings. We get At the Gates next. And then we have our new segment, The Thralls Greatest Hits, that works in tandem with the rankings, which we think are kind of cool. Nick's never-ending collection updates. States of Metal, is it not metal? All metal, all the time. We do all that stuff for you guys because, frankly, we appreciate you. Thank you for being a part of this channel. Thank you to our members. Thank you to our non-members. Thank you to our subscribers. Thank you to everybody that makes this channel kick as much ass as it does, because I think if it was just us two, I don't think it would kick ass.
I would choke him.
Yeah.
What? Internal monologue. Shut up there for just a second. Anyway, one more big thank you, because you guys are absolutely awesome, and we will catch you later.